I've been reading a lot, like exploring a lot more of the Middle Ages, right?
Mm.
And the Middle Ages aren't really Middle Ages. Like it's actually a lot more. They're not the Dark Ages, right? But in some sense, there's a coherence in the Middle Ages that is just almost unprecedented, right? So like if you think about like the Middle Age town, in fact, even I mean, this isn't Middle Ages, but even when you go out east, there's the older towns on the East Coast, right? The really old ones, the 1700s. If you stand back and you look at in every one of them, the highest point of the town is the cross,
Yeah.
right? And then everything about the town, from where the church is to how the streets are laid out, right, is the cross is always above you, and there's a town center, and everything is, in some sense, architecture is, in some sense, presencing the context, right? That in the inexhaustible, in the particular, in the most
Mm.
structured, right? And so that as you walk along, if you imagine growing up in that, you don't even have to believe anything. You just have to, and you have to walk inside of its intelligibility, and it's all, in some sense, laid out like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I think I get so existentially nauseous when I go to a subdivision, right?
Mm.
Because in some strange way, a subdivision, right, is is built to look like that. So it's built to look like a house. It's built so in some sense it announces its vacuity, its absence to that ground. And so you just end up in this right?
It announces its profanity.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So in some sense, I would imagine architecture, like the and buildings, it, it 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 can actually do that
Yeah.
in some sense, right?
Oh, crucially,
Yeah.
crucially. Yeah. The thing I've really been feeling enormously over the past few months is the in the context of Civium,
Yeah.
the specificity, frankly, of how not that, but
By the
how.
way, I haven't even started those videos. By the way, because I've been wanting to wait until I can just really sit down and listen to that. So I've held off from
Well,
watching those. Yes.
I cannot say that they were worth that amount of intent, but
Okay. Great.
to each his own. I can't even say that they're even worth watching.
Mhm.
But if it turns out that you choose to attend them in that way and they
Mhm.
show you something that feels like it was worth the time, I'm glad that's the case.
Yes. Thank you. I'll let you know.
Um, let me see. Sacred. Yeah. The
Mhm.
sacred relationship with the land, sacred relationship with the whole place. This is
Yes.
the key, right? If you think about it, if I really, really want to do this right,
Mhm.
the cross
Mhm.
has to extend all the way to the actually transcendent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then has to be grounded in the fully immanent, right? In the
Mhm.
actual, in the place itself in all of its ways, right?
Yeah.
So it's the yeah. Hold, check this out. The way you're describing, the way you're describing it, there's a felt sense of rightness, the primary guide of how one goes about cultivating an architecture in with that sensibility. Right?
Yeah.
It's just you put the brick down, and you really need to feel that the brick is in the right
Yeah.
place, like integrity. And you look around, maybe even like listen to the sound of brick on brick, the way it sounds in the street, like everything, every aspect of the
Oh,
entire quality of experience is orienting your capacity to choose the
oh yeah.
specificity of the materialization
Wow.
of, right? That's how you do it. And
It's
I've
like
seen this exactly
it's
once.
like it's like an optimal grip on multiple dimensions at the same time, all right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the indigenous. Like when you read Tyson Young Comporto talking about what it means to be an indigenous human in custodial relationship with nature, and which, by the way, in a migratory, right, is to really feel and listen and perceive, like, oh, and the wind is changing, and the birds are singing a different kind of song, and the warmth of my skin is shifting, which means therefore my movement and motion and my part of this story is now called forth in a particular way, right? That's what I'm
Mm,
talking about, which is to
mm,
say truly sacred, like really deeply imbibing and expressing the sacred moment to moment in relationship to the whole of world, right? Well, that's actually pretty much all enough by itself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
once you've done that, right? Once you've
Mhm.
kind of said, okay, that's what I'm trying to do, myself and with others.
Mhm.
Then there's a listening to and a calling forth. Is now the architecture is the co-creation with these, right? Anthropos, human, right? Is
Mhm.
handed one, right? With these to begin the thing of giving our capacity and our co-creative capacity to cultivate in relationship with the place, the land, the nature that we are at,
Mhm.
um, an expression, a sacred expression. Right? So if you think of all architecture must be a sacred expression, then what happens is, as you say, as you're moving through it, if you're moving through
Mhm.
architecture that was intended to be and skillfully delivered as a sacred expression,
Yeah.
you will feel that
Yeah.
in all. And of course, now what happens is you're lit up qualitatively. Like
Yeah.
all kinds of new things will begin to show up. Like you'll actually notice that the light reveals different aspects of beauty and inquiry as it shifts, as the sun
Yeah.
shifts through the day and through the seasons. And I don't mean
Yeah.
simulation. I don't
Yeah.
mean, well, that's a cool idea. Let me figure out how to calculate that and drop it.
Yeah.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
As a natural thing that happens when you really
Every
sit
step
through.
on that rock that was laid down like it, yes, your
Right.
bodily comportment
You're like,
is,
you're like, well,
yes.
how did that happen? You're like,
Yes.
because it's there and I
Yes.
listened, like that kind of an answer.
It's
And
there.
so then you get the cycle, right? Because
Yeah.
now what happens is to be born in that context, right? To be developed from conception in that context, your body and your soul are receiving that quality, that complexity every instant. And so you are now becoming an instrument whose capacity to receive and attune to what I guess Greg calls wisdom energy, right?
Yeah.
Like that verticality
Yeah.
is, well, it's well trained, right? It's actually just, it's nice. It's well held. And
Right.
therefore your capacity to give that back, to
Yeah.
use that listening, and then to be able to be in a deeper, stronger, more skillful, sacred relationship is better. I mean, just what I'm saying here, there's a lot, but let me just, the thing that just is popping up here is to say, look, you remember back in the day, I think before we were born, there's this whole brouhaha around the X minute mile. I don't know what it was, 4 minute mile or something like that.
Mhm.
Like literally, maybe impossible. Maybe human beings' bodies will fly apart if we try to run faster than this speed. Right? One guy, by the way, in the West, like I don't know, I'm sure there are people all over the world who've done it many times. So one guy in
Mhm.
the West, in sort of historical frame, pulls it off and runs faster. But nowadays, like an average high school sprinter can break that speed.
Right.
You know,
Right.
this
Right.
is the thing. Like we can
Yeah.
the first generation, our generation, working from mostly having to heal to be able to listen to this at all, can only try to move the story forward and create less noise for our children and our children's children. But in 2 or 3 or 4 generations, if we are able to hold the integrity of that and continue to move in that as the mode of manifestation, mode of being and doing in world with world, then wow, those kids will be
Yes.
pretty fast.
Yes. Just letting that land.